Take a trip to the past with a brand new untold tale of the Man of Steel brought to us courtesy of Gail Simone and Eddie Barrows. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Action Comics issue number 1067 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, as we join this little trip down memory lane, we're in Metropolis in the 70s. How can I tell? Well, because Clark, Lois, and Jimmy aren't journalists for the Daily Planet anymore. Instead, they actually work for the TV news as anchor people. Yes, this was an actual real thing that actually happened during Superman's long career, and it's something that stories don't often reference anymore. In fact, Simone is sure to fill this story with a ton of different deep cuts and callbacks, up to and including Jimmy saying that he wants to be referred to as Mr. Action moving forward, which just so happens to be a name that Superman's best pal has used in the past. Now, what's the news team trio doing today? Well, they're covering a human interest story. It would seem that the local Siegel Youth Center is set to be torn down after not passing inspection, leading the charge to try and save the building and by extension the young people who use it as a respite is none other than teacher Jefferson Pierce. Yes, that's right, that Jefferson Pierce, the man who will be Black Lightning. In fact, in the internal monologue, they do a good job explaining that Superman and Jefferson liked each other right away, two decent men who recognized the decency in each other, and even though this is the first time they met, it wouldn't be the last. We see that Jefferson has actually managed to coach one hell of a basketball team at the youth center, and wouldn't you know it, competition actually ends up being a major theme of this story moving forward. Like, case in point, Lois and Clark trying to one-up each other as news people around this time. Clark has barely finished his interview with Jefferson before Lois interjects, as you guessed it, she's already managed to bust this case wide open. It seems that the youth center was actually targeted by a wealthy and evil real estate developer who bribed the city inspectors with hopes of stealing the land out from under the youth center and replacing it with a brand new foreign tech company, which will naturally end up spiking the local rent and phasing out all the regular residents of this area. All in all, this would be considered a day's work well done, but of course this is a Superman story, so everything has to end up accelerating quite quickly, as at that very moment, the interview further gets interrupted by the arrival of a group of heavily armed alien warriors. Jefferson tries to put himself between his kids and this alien's blaster, and when he ends up getting knocked down, the kids very heroically all come together to try and push the alien back. Clark even says that these alien invaders are about to get a crash course in just what amazing things humanity can do when they all come together. It also seems that these reptile aliens with the guns aren't alone, as there is a much smaller individual with the ability to speak to Superman. As we learn, these green guys are called the Gorathians, a warlike race of alien conquerors who managed to infiltrate and subsume a much larger and much more peaceful alien collective. Now they travel the universe, challenging planets to deadly games. If they win, the planets are conquered, the populace is enslaved, and resources are struck for a profit. But if they lose, then they'll be forced to leave. At first, Superman chooses not to play into such a sick and twisted game. In fact, in a show of real force, Superman grabs one of the aliens' guns and chews it up. Which, honestly, as far as scare tactics go, that is a pretty baller move. Ultimately, it's revealed that these guys who Superman is dealing with aren't actually the warriors of the Gorathian race. They're the diplomats, and they say if Superman refuses to play their game, then their armada will unleash a massive laser barrage on Earth. Superman is strong enough that he will probably survive, but the Earth certainly will not, leaving the Man of Steel a twice-orphaned last son of a dead world. Which, as you might have guessed, Superman refuses to let happen, and as such, he agrees to the deadly games. The Gorathians say that Superman is allowed 2 seconds to join him in the competition, and while his mind obviously considers Batman and Wonder Woman when he moves too quickly to talk to Lois and Jimmy, the Gorathians assume that is him choosing his seconds, and they are all brought together to face their first challenge to the death. Also, it's not just them who are brought to deal with this. The Gorathians also decide to steal a massive military aircraft carrier and suspend it over the city. The idea being if this thing falls out of orbit, it could probably crush most of Metropolis. We also see in a couple quick panels how the likes of Perry White and even Ma and Pa Kent are reacting to all this brand new alien craziness. The Gorathians' first challenge is plenty simple. Superman will have to do battle with a massive tentacled alien alien monstrosity who's so huge he actually takes up most of his debut page. Did I mention the alien monster is also psychic and able to resist Superman's heat vision? Because he totally is. In the end, Superman only ends up overcoming this obstacle by basically letting himself be swallowed by the creature and unleashing his frost breath from the inside out. Now that might be one obstacle down, but the worst is still yet to come as the giant aircraft carrier begins to fall out of orbit, and even though other members of the Justice League have been dispatched to Metropolis, it's made abundantly clear only the Man of Steel can stop this thing from falling. However, Superman won't be able to stop this thing and save Lois and Jimmy at the same time, so as the comic comes to a close, our hero is left with a horrible, impossible choice. And so that was Action Comics 1067, everybody, and obviously I make no bones about it, Gail Simone is probably one of my favorite comic writers of all time, and man, is she set up to have an amazing year between this guest spot on Action Comics and getting to write the new Uncanny X-Men book. An issue like this really is a love letter to a bygone era of Superman stories, one we rarely ever get to see them revisit, but one that is all that much more sweet when they actually do get to do it. And if Action Comics isn't something of a special guest writer era, I hope they would continue to push creative boundaries and do fun and interesting one-offs like this. This one's got action, it's got a little comedy, it's got a little everything, and I can't wait for the next issue. Overall, I would give this one an 8 out of 10.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.